Hi, welcome to our talk about getting your non-SREs Oncall ready. My name is JC van Winkel. I've been with Google for 14 years. I'm the lead educator of SRE EDU. I'm responsible for the content of all the materials. I have been on call for a service, actually Google's internal production monitoring system that monitors everything. But also I have by now 30 years of experience in teaching. And Brad here is my colleague.
My name is Brad Lipinski. I've been at Google for about 11 years. I spent a number of years on some service teams in the data center software space, especially with repairs, kind of workflows, turn-ups and turn-downs. And then I've been on the SRE EDU team at Google for 5 years, and I'm now the tech lead, the eng lead for our team.
So Jennifer Pedoff, our director, and I have given a talk about how we educate new hires in SRE. And we build a system for that I will talk a little bit about as preparation for the rest. But now we actually want to scale that up. Getting all your SREs on-call ready is one task, but there are so many other people that are going on call and don't have the confidence and the background knowledge needed for them to actually go on call. So our 1 week orientation onboarding experience for Google new hire SREs consists of classes and of hands-on. That sounds pretty normal, right? Classes, hands-on, because you can't really learn without doing hands-on. But the classes that we teach are only there to teach just enough for the hands-on. So we look at the hands-on, and based on what is in the hands-on, we will teach the classes. We don't teach stuff that are not needed for the hands-on, and that is actually very hard for our instructors because they will say, but there's so much more to tell. No, people are not going to use it in the hands-on, so we don't do that. So we do not go into the proverbial fire hose of information. Instead, what we try to aim for in our orientation week is to instill confidence about going on call. We want these people to go out of our week-long education with the feeling, you know what? I can do this. I can go on call. And for that, we need the hands-on that we will talk about. You can compare this a bit with, have you ever learned to drive a car by just reading a book? Or did your driving instructor just put you behind the wheel and said, that pedal there will make you go faster, and that pedal there will make you go slower? And that's all you know. And that is sort of what we try to do, and then give the people experience. Imposter syndrome is a big thing for people who go on call. It's very scary being responsible for a service that it will actually run the way it should run. So how have we done this? How have we done this? We have created a specific application. It is a photo upload service. You can see a screenshot here. People can upload photos. People can look at a gallery of photos. People can look at the whole photo, and they can add hashtags. That's all it is. We don't have just one of these. We have a whole bunch of them. And each of these consists of it's a microservice-based thing, so it has a front end, it has a back end, it has some database backends, and we run in multiple data centers. It's a truly distributed system in Google style. But there is one thing that is different from all the other stuff that is being made at Google, and that is that this thing is supposed to be broken in predefined ways. So when the exercise starts, we will break the thing, and the students have to go find out what is going on. Note that the students know that they cannot break anything by manipulating this. They can do whatever they want. They can change load balancing. They can create more instances of individual programs there. Nothing can break other parts of Google. Actually, if our students did something to our photo stack and suddenly Google Maps doesn't work anymore, there is a much bigger problem than just that. The way the setup is we have 3 students who together try to solve the problem and 1 TA who is in the know. They know everything about the specific breakage and will nudge the students a bit here and there when the TA sees that the students don't actually make enough progress soon enough. The real goal is that at the end of the 2 hours or 2.5 hours, the students have actually mitigated the problem and know what the root cause of the problem is. And we will make sure that they find out that using the nudges, because that is the only way they get this feeling, wow, I did this. They don't even notice the nudges, actually. So this is what we do for our new hire SREs. And this is our prize horse of orientation. But SRE EDU orientation is expensive to run. We need a lot of instructors, volunteers. We have a lot of operational work to do. Chat rooms are being prepared. We find the instructors. We need to schedule the students to get they get a specific instance. This is not being run very often, only once a month or so. We do run it in several time zones. So if you add that all up, it is expensive, it's a lot of work, and for each of the students, it means that we steal 1 week of their presence, usually week 2 or 3 of them being at Google. Now, it has been a very successful program, and people started to ask non-SREs, so software engineers in the engineering department saying, we have heard about this thing where you learn how to be on call. Can we do that as well? And then we say, well, there's one thing, we don't let you cherry pick. So you either come the full week or you don't come at all, because the classes really build on each other and it would be too disruptive. So we have these students who want to come. How can we let them come without it costing a whole full week? Well, for that, we have created a program. Note that non-SRE engineering in Google is at least 10 times the size of SRE. So there is a much larger population potentially to teach. And so how can we make this shorter for them and still have a good experience? Well, the crown jewel of SRE EDU orientation is, of course, the photo service and the breakages. How can we make that scale? Well, the solution that we have found is we just let them do all the work. We let them do all the logistics and everything. And that is what we call Oncall Ready drills. So using Oncall Ready drills, we give non-SREs in engineering experience in investigating and mitigating an outage. We, of course, tell them that it's a safe educational service. No other service in Google depends on our service. So even if they break it, they burn it down to the ground, nothing else will break. So it's exactly the same thing as in SRE EDU orientation. And now about the scaling part. We don't have any instructors, we don't have teachers, but we have one of the students be the TA. And that means that it can scale as much as we want. Instead of having 3 students and a TA, we have 1 student who will get extra materials, let's say the behind the scenes stuff, and we tell them how to nudge the students. But apart from requiring materials that I'm responsible for, there was also a lot of engineering to be done to actually get this to work. And that's where Brad comes in.
So this is a system that already exists. We're already using it with our legacy kind of orientation program. Legacy kind of, that is always constantly improving. But we have capacity already. We have this set up. We have also scaled it so that it can handle the maximum load that we would ever see in orientation all at the same time. We don't usually hit that load, and it only runs 1 week a month. So we already have the spare capacity. If you're setting this up in your own environment, you'll need either the environments already around, which is what we have. It's a long process to turn these up and down, relatively speaking, or you'll need a pool of reserved RAM, CPU, whatever it is, so you can create and destroy the environments as needed. We also need reservations. It would not go well if we let 2 different teams both run a breakage at the same time on the same environment. They're going to see things that the other group is doing. They're going to conflict with each other. Will not go well. So we need reservations to make sure that the environment is available for them and them only, ready for their use. We also need orchestration. There is some setup and cleanup. A lot of that was already automated, but some of it was not. And to go into a little bit more detail, we built these 2 services. We built a new service with a number of different components. There's a reservation service that has a front-end, back-end database, kind of just like our photo stack. The students can go to the web interface. They pick a time that they want to do their exercise. And then this will reserve the instance or instances. You can do this as small as a group of 4, we recommend, or up to many, many, many different people all in one event. So it will reserve these instances. It'll create calendar events for everyone. Otherwise, it doesn't exist and they will forget. It also sends customized instructions. So this is how we tell the students, oh, you don't know anything about production, you might want to look at this beforehand. Or, hey, you're the TA, please review these materials so you know what's going on, what the actual breakage is, and you can help your students through it. We also have a bunch of orchestration. The stacks are available for anyone to poke at in a read-only mode at any time, but we don't let debugging or actual changes happen, so we need to grant permissions. There are a bunch of life cycle steps as well. Normally, everything is happy, monitoring is good, all the SLOs are green, but we break it, and that has to happen ahead of time. So even before they start their exercise, we've already burned through all of our SLO. So that's prep. We hold pages until they're ready to receive them. Their event starts. We remove our page silences. They get the pages. Of course.
Fun fact. We have monitoring.
That's coming later.
Oh.
They get the pages. Then we also have to shut down the breakage when it's time and clean it up. They may do things like, hey, let's turn up some new tasks over here and see if that helps, or let's redirect all this traffic away. That needs to all be reset at the end so that it's ready for the next person. What JC was alluding to here is we have monitoring that is the reverse of most monitoring. You want to know when your service is broken. We want to know when our service is not broken. If we have a breakage enabled, we estimate when we're going to hit the paging threshold. And then we have a couple points where we check, are we on track? Just strict linear interpolation to hit that threshold that we need for the students. If we're not, then we get alerted, we can look into it. Sometimes that's in the middle of the night for us, but we do the best that we can. And there have been a couple of times we have caught issues in our infrastructure and helped before it affected the students. These changes, all of these also affect regular orientation. So how do we prioritize and protect that program? It gets priority. We schedule 2.5 months out for regular orientation, and we only let the engineers book a month out, which is plenty of time. No one plans further than that anyway. We do over-reservation for orientation. Initially, we just book our maximum number of students. Then as the time gets closer and our student numbers kind of stabilize, we will just drop the parts of the reservation, the environments that we don't need. They become available for everyone else. And of course, I'll talk more about this later, but we do a slow rollout. So these are infrastructure changes that affect the existing program. We can do that, start that on weeks when it's not running, and also do a week watching it very carefully, making sure that everything is going well. One big benefit of this, of the reservation service, is we can share our environments much more easily. So we've had other groups come to us say, hey, I want to do this custom training, but I don't have a place to do it. I can't get the resources. I don't have the time to spend 2 weeks doing a turnup. Can I borrow this? And that means we can create a reservation for them, either with or without the breakages. They can do their training, get that value without having to do all the administrative overhead of getting resources, setting up, tearing down, etc. This was a long project as well. We only had 2 engineers actually on our team at that time. We did not do it ourselves. It was about half and half for the front end and the back end. So we had people on rotation for 6 months that just joined our team with their manager's consent and did about half of the web interface, did about half of the back end, and engineers on our team did the other half. So we were able to get this over the line with resources outside of just our team, kind of through volunteering. But that only covers the technical side of things, the infrastructure. There is a lot more to do on the curriculum side as well.
So the students who come to us and ask for, can we do one of these exercises? They are engineers who are on, let's say, the calendar team or something, doing a Google Maps front end or things like that. They don't have that much, potentially that much experience with production. Terms like Borg and chubby and stubby, they may not be that well versed into that. So we need to give these people the minimum amount of knowledge so that they can actually understand what it is, the dashboard, the Borg dashboard, for example, what that means, what they see. So we looked at orientation, and we looked at what is the material that we give our SRE new hires before they go through their very first breakage that they do themselves. It is 3.5 hours worth of material, of training. That is a bit much because the breakage exercise itself is already 3 hours. And if you give them 3 hours 30 to prepare, that's a full day. And there are those engineers that actually are very well versed in Borg and chubby and stubby and load balancing. So how do we do this? How can we compress those 3.5 hours to the very minimum that we need? Well, for that, we have a trick that is called ASBATs. And you might say ASBATs. Well, an ASBAT stands for A student should be able to. And now you think, you mean learning objectives. Yeah, but learning objectives can be fluffy, whereas ASBATs are very concrete. Let me give you an example. A learning objective could be, a student should understand how to create a new file. Okay, understand. Whereas the ASBAT would be, a student should be able to create a new file. ASBATs are things that you could even test the students on that in an exam. Whereas a learning objective is fluffy. How do you know that someone understands it or has a grasp about or things like that? So we make a list of ASBATs. What we did is we looked at how do you solve this specific breakage. You go through the happy path, and the happy path is step 1, you look at this. Step 2, you look at that. You conclude that this and this is going on. Step 3, you verify in that other dashboard. So all of those happy path things you write down. And based on those steps, you set your ASBATs. The student should be able to look at that dashboard and conclude that, and so on and so on. This then automatically leads to the things that you should discuss in your class. And based on these ASBATs, we created the layout of the class, we created the slides, and recorded a video. By the way, that video is 18 minutes. So we compressed 3 hours and 30 minutes of material into 18 minutes. And I think it works because we know what the results are, but Brad is going to talk about that a bit later. So That was the materials that we give our students. But what about our TAs, our teaching assistants? You know, one of those 4 students that gets the background information. Well, of course, we give them the happy path through the breakage. It is basically, how should you walk through the escape room to find the exit? And what are the things you need to find the key that's over there, and you need to press that button over there. So we give them that happy path. We have also created a video of a SRE that goes through that breakage, including every now and then breaking the 4th wall and saying, well, I'm now actually looking here because blah, blah, blah. And then we give the TAs these materials, and you might say that, is it then still fun for the TA, A, and B, does the TA actually learn something? Don't the students learn more? And we get the strong impression that both the TAs and the students, they learn equally much, and it's equally fun. And actually, there are people who have gone through a breakage with their team and then say, oh, there's another team that wants to go through the breakage. I want a TA again because it is so much fun. Note another thing that we give the TAs is a list of red herrings. So students might want to try this. Nudge them away from that because that is not going to be it. So that was about rolling things out to our students based or regarding the materials. But there is also the infrastructure that needs to be rolled out.
So we're SREs, right? We just launch it globally and we're done. Of course not. We follow best practices with our launch as well. We do this with all of our training programs, not only on the technical side, but also on the curriculum side. So we do a gradual launch with various different canary phases. The first step is our existing orientation program. We need to make sure that all of the changes we've made haven't broken anything there. There are almost no visible changes. The one difference we had was our orientation instructors used to release the pages automatically, because if they didn't do it right when they needed it, they would expire because no one acted them in 5 minutes. So we changed that to be 30 minutes or an hour and let them know they didn't have to do this, but it also is an idempotent process. So if they forgot and they tried to release the pages anyway, either they were already released and nothing changes, or they just did it a bit early, no harm, no foul. Once that was working well, we started to schedule new sessions of the Oncall Ready drills, but we watched them. So someone would actually be sitting in the call with the people going through the exercise, not teaching necessarily, but seeing how the TA is doing, how the students are doing, and is able to jump in if there is a problem or there's something that's not clear, so they still have a good experience. Constantly feeding back into our materials and our infrastructure as we're finding problems. Then we moved to unobserved sessions where we still recruited folks specifically, but we threw them at the web interface so they could find all of the confusing parts that made perfect sense to me and absolutely no sense to anyone else. We could fix those, help them along if we needed to, but let them do it entirely on their own. Again, looking at their feedback after their session. And then we started rolling out more widely. So we started with a single site. We used mailing lists mostly to advertise this, send an email to all of the engineers in Zurich, for example. Give them a little while to kick the tires. Then we went to a region. We did EMEA after a single site. And then, of course, we went globally, launched it globally. Then the final state of our program is we actually are able to tell the very first time someone is in an on-call rotation. So usually this would be a dev that would get caught by this because we know who's taking our orientation program. But if you just pop up without telling anyone in an on-call rotation, we will see that. And then we will send you an email saying, hey, we have this program, Oncall Ready. We think it's pretty good. It'll teach you about production. It looks like you're on call. Maybe you should take that. Giving them a quick, easy opt-out as well if they're like, yeah, I've done this before, leave me alone. But we give them a chance to take the program and get the skills around the right time when they're going on call. So it would email them 2 months ahead of time so they could review the materials. And of course, we had monitoring. Not only was this automated monitoring, but also manual monitoring. We had service metrics, so we could see that our new services were working correctly, our tasks were getting scheduled, permissions were propagating, all of that. as well as survey and free-form feedback. We collected surveys, some data before, some after, so we could see a change, as well as things like, what did you think of it? And do you have any other comments for us? And what did that data tell us? We found a 95% net promoter score for this program, which is absolutely fantastic, especially for a program that doesn't have live instructors. So the net promoter score is the percentage of people that liked the program minus the percentage of people that didn't like the program. That means if you were just like, nah, it was okay, we get nothing from you. If everyone said that, it would be 0. But if you go to the negative instead of the positive, that's a 2-point swing. You're taking a point off of the positive and adding it to the negative. So a 95% is very, very high. The lowest you could get is -100. The highest you could get is 100. In typical AI fashion, we also threw all of our free text responses at Gemini and said, hey, what's going on here? And this quote on the slide is from Gemini. The survey responses primarily revolve around the positive aspects of the training sessions, the practical hands-on nature of the training, allowing participants to apply their knowledge in real-life scenarios. So that was what we saw in the free text comments, and Gemini picked this out as well. Very valuable part of the program. We also have a quote there from a student, a direct quote. I've recommended the training to my teammates who are not on call. However, students found it hard to form groups. In this life of screens, it's so difficult to make real connection with other people. So we decided we also need to build a group matching service. We had seen some grassroots efforts for this in our Discuss group, and someone ultimately made a spreadsheet to try and do this. So we decided, oh, we can help. Let's provide a tool. Let's integrate this into our comms. So if you get that on-call email, you don't have other people on your team, you can go to a web interface and say, I want to take this breakage or these breakages, or I'm willing to be the TA for this breakage or these breakages, and then it will match you up with other people in roughly compatible time zones. If we can find that 3-hour block where you're all in business hours, we'll send an email to everyone and then let you take it from there, do the scheduling yourself. So in conclusion, we've now made the key bits, the really hands-on good stuff from our bespoke orientation program, high effort to run, available to any engineer at Google. People who go on call, even if you just put in the change list to put yourself into the rotation, get an email so that they know about this program and have the option of taking it. And we've found that if you build it, they will come. In our first year after launching this service, it's been about 2 years now, we had 3 times the maximum number of people we'd ever had go through our legacy program go through it. And it was almost 0 investment on our part. There's a lot of investment initially to set up the new services, to create the original program, to do all of that curriculum work. But after that, it basically runs itself. And the little bit of maintenance that we do have to do, we need for our legacy program anyway. So the extra overhead to run this is almost nothing. It also is a really easy recommendation. We have different groups coming to us, either new SRE teams that are spinning up, or dev teams that are going on call for the first time, people that have heard about our training program. We can point them at this, they can take it immediately, and it's not any work for us. This has been a really big win for our team to take something we already have, take all of our knowledge, and share it much more widely. And lastly, there is a book about this. We have some copies, not enough for everyone. So if this is a problem that you're dealing with, maybe you can't do the full photos stack, but you can put together some exercises. The book has a lot of really good information about how to create a program for training SREs, and you can use this model to extend that to all of your engineers. So if that sounds like something you really need to know more about, please come up, but we don't have enough for everyone, of course.
However, there is a link there, the bit.ly link, that points to the online version. The PDF is there. You can read that for free. It's just if you want dead trees, then we have them here.
And 2 of the people on the cover, JC and Jen, are here. So maybe if you ask nicely, they would even sign your copy if you're into that. So questions?